What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. There is no rest for the wicked. I am still tired, I am still wearing my draft shirt, and I am ready to discuss Pittsburgh Steelers rounds 2 and 3 on day 2 of the 2023 NFL Draft. Pittsburgh started the night with pick 32. Thank you, Chicago Bears, for the Chase Claypool trade. It is the most coveted pick in the draft, especially considering that many good players like Brian Branch, like JPJ, fell out of the first round, including quarterbacks Hendon Hooker and Will Levis. So Pittsburgh was saying all day they were fielding calls from 7 or 8 different teams about trading pick 32, and I think that was the initial intention. I think at 32, Pittsburgh wanted to trade back if they got a good enough deal and get something. And maybe if they got an amazing deal, they would have, but with Joey Porter Jr. being our widest mock player at 17 and being often considered to be gone by 17, for him to be there for us at 32 as our second round pick, I saw no scenario coming into this draft where we could have traded up to get Broderick Jones and still get Joey Porter Jr. at 32. It almost seems too good to be true. I don't know how it happened, but if anybody would have posted a mock draft that would have had both Broderick Jones and a trade up and Joey Porter, there would have been no possible way for me to see this happening, but it happened. Pittsburgh decides to hold on to pick 32, and they go and get Penn State's cornerback Joey Porter at 32. And again, second time in a row now, you're addressing the biggest opening need of your team. We came into this draft, and in my opinion, on the chalkboard, the biggest needs for us were offensive tackle, and then cornerback, and then D tackle. Those were the 3 massive needs that I saw holes in that need day one starters. We go and get JPJ, and much like Broderick Jones, it's another physical guy, it's another athlete. JPJ is one of the more physical guys at corner in this draft. Is he a little bit too handsy at times? Yes. Does he always get his head around to the ball that might draw penalties in the NFL? Yeah, possibly. But I really like this pick, not just because of the fact that it's local in Pennsylvania, not because of the fact that his dad played for us, obviously, but Porter is he has the best attributes physically of any corner in this draft. He's big, he's physical, he uses his hands, he stays glued to receivers, he can play outside, he can handle the deep ball. I like Porter a lot. I like his footwork. I think he really just has to work on hand placement consistency, which he usually does well, but sometimes not. He needs to work on hand placement consistency, and he has to work on getting his head around for the deep plays quicker so he's not drawing penalties because he is right up in people's grills. He's a big physical guy, which fits the Steelers. He can also tackle in the run game, and he can diagnose screenplays. So I think he's going to fit here very well. Hometown sort of guy. Father played here, obviously. I like this pick a lot for us. It is getting the best physical traits out of the biggest need on the board, and a guy that has great value. A guy that easily could have gone 13 or 14 in this draft. We get at 32 on our second pick after getting a franchise tackle. So I love how this draft is going so far. Broderick Jones at 14, JPJ at 32. Our 2 biggest needs are now filled. Amazing. Then we get to round 3, pick 49. And I had a wish list of 5 guys. There was 5 guys that I was like, you know what, this would be great. The biggest need is D tackle. So I had Keanu Benton and Siaki Ika as my 2 D tackles that I wanted that were available at pick 49. I had 2 inside linebackers. I had Drew Sanders and Trenton Simpson. And then I had number 5, Darnell Washington, who's just, we don't necessarily need a tight end. We already have 2, including Pat being a star. But the possibilities were endless there, and I just was dreaming on that 5th pick. So those were the top 5 guys that I wanted there, but D tackle was the biggest need. Inside linebacker is a flashier pick. D tackle is not the flashiest pick in the world, but Pittsburgh goes chalk and does it right with Keanu Benton at 49, the D tackle out of Wisconsin. I like Keanu Benton. He's an athletic guy. He's a very strong guy, and he's a guy that can play in sub packages. He's an every down D tackle, and he can play over the nose. A lot of the guys we've been bringing in the last couple of years, including DeMarvin Leal, including a couple of these other guys that kind of float in and out, they've been guys that kind of are forced to be D tackles because they really have no spot, or they're not true nose tackles. They're just kind of floating around. Keanu Benton can play legitimately over the nose, but he can also play other techniques. He can play all along the line. So he's going to come in this year and be a D tackle, potentially a starter on day 1. If not, we have 1 or 2 guys who can fill in while he gets ready, but I think he's ready now. But he can also play later on down the road on the outside of the line. He can play outside techniques under the center, and he can play on the end of the line. He's a really athletic guy, really powerful. I think he's good in both the run game and the pass game. He's gotten, 11 or 12 sacks in his Wisconsin career? He's a sack guy. He gets to the quarterback. More importantly, though, he's blowing up run plays. I've seen him on a lot of draws. I've seen him get out to screens. He's got a motor for a guy his size. He's a physical Pittsburgh Steelers type. You're getting another big guy in the trenches who's got power and who's an athlete. That's been a theme of this draft. Broderick Jones, I gave the freak title, which is the highest level of athlete to me. And now you get JPJ, who's athletic and physical, and now you get Benton doing the same thing, filling the biggest need at that time on the draft board at 49. I didn't know that Keanu Benton would fall to us there. I'm really glad we got him. He's maybe not as big as a Mazi or a Siaki Ika, but I think he's a better fundamental player. Really good tackler, and like I said, helps in both the running game and the pass game, and he winds up being position versatility that can play in sub packages. So if you go nickel or dime, you can keep him out there and he can play consistently. And like I said, if he needs to sit for a couple of games, which I don't think he will, we've got guys like Montravis Adams and the two guys we just signed, Fehoko and the other guy from Chicago. We have several guys that can fill in the meantime. But I like Benton for us. Benton is a Pittsburgh Steeler through and through, which again is a theme for this draft. Now we've got the most controversial piece here. So round 3, pick number 80, Pittsburgh trades back. Pittsburgh trades back to the Carolina Panthers to go back 13 spots to pick 93 in the 3rd round and also pick up 132 in the 4th round. And this was the point when it initially happened that I said, I think this is the first mistake of their draft. They've been going perfectly so far. They've filled every need one by one perfectly. I think this one's a mistake because there were 2 players that were sitting on the board that should have been gone potentially in the 1st round. We had Darnell Washington and Trenton Simpson just sitting there. And I went, oh man, Trenton Simpson, if we get him, this is an automatic A-plus draft for me. To get a guy, I had Trenton Simpson mocked number 28 to the Bills in the 1st round. To get Trenton Simpson at pick 80 would have been such a steal. He's such a freak athlete. He's another guy in that freak category. And I was like, oh man, he's not going to last till 93. So I was a little upset at losing Simpson, and I thought losing Washington as well. And I went, okay, this was inside linebacker now is their biggest need out of all the things they've covered now. And so I think this is a mistake because Simpson is such a steal there. Sure enough, Simpson does go to the Baltimore Ravens, who always have among the best drafts in the league every single year, and they steal a guy this late that is such an asset. Even though they already have pretty good linebackers, they get Simpson here, and what a grab for the Ravens. What a move on their part. So I'm thinking, okay, was it worth it to move back 13 spots in round 3 and then recoup around a round 4 pick? So now essentially, with recouping round 4, you're only going back 12 spots from the initial round 4 we had. But we'll get there. That would all depend on who we got at pick number 93 in round 3, and that was Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington was still out there, the freak, the best athlete at tight end in this draft, and one of the best athletes of the entire NFL draft, up there with a guy like Broderick Jones. To have the kind of size that Darnell Washington has, it's insane. The only reason he fell to 93 when other guys were getting taken is because there's rumors of a knee injury, because he did miss previous time, I think at the start of camp in 2022. He didn't play spring ball in 2022. I think he had 1 surgery on that knee. But he hasn't shown any effects of that all in this past season, and he's been jumping over guys and running through guys. So I don't see any effects on that knee. Could there be a down-the-road lingering injury that gets re-aggravated? Possibly, yeah. But to take a chance on a guy like this, again, I had Washington like fringe round 1, early round 2. I had him somewhere in like the 29 to 35 kind of thing. I had seen him mocked several times to us at 32. So to get him at 93 after trading back and recouping an extra pick is one of the best values of the entire draft. Along with Trenton Simpson to the Ravens, Washington is our best value of this entire draft. It's absolutely incredible. He is a guy that can do so much for us because now you put him in there at tight end too. Zach Gentry is a guy that's gotten better every year, and a guy that's a great blocker is our 3rd tight end. He can give us 3 tight end sets to run the ball and do goal line packages and stuff like that because he can catch a little bit and he's a good big physical blocker. But now you add a good big physical blocker who can also catch like crazy, and he's a super athlete. Gentry's not terribly athletic. He's just strong and has a big frame. Washington is strong and has a big frame and is a crazy athlete. You watch him at Georgia, the only reason why his stats didn't jump off the page is because they had Brock Bowers, the best tight end in the nation, next to him. He's incredible. He's, what is he, like 6'7", 310 pounds or something like that. No, not 310. He's like 250. But it's incredible to look at this guy. One of the best combines yet. One of the most athletic guys in the entire draft. And now you have these two tight end sets where you're going to bump Connor Hayward, who played tight end last year and filled in very, very nicely at the end of the year when Freiermuth got concussed. You have a guy like Connor Hayward, who's an underrated athlete, an underrated catcher, and can block himself. He goes now to fullback and replaces Derek Watt. So now there's no need for Derek Watt to come back. Now all of a sudden, you put Connor Hayward at fullback, and you've got a guy who can run at fullback a little bit and do the short yardage and goal line stuff. He can catch out of the backfield very, very well. And he's good at getting downfield. He can make some middle of the field plays. He's one of the most athletic fullbacks you're ever going to see in the NFL. And now he's creating mismatches out of the backfield as a guy who can run, block, and catch. Now at tight end, too, you've got Darnell Washington, who's the best blocking tight end in this draft. He gets downfield to block for his quarterbacks, and he blocks in the run game. So now you're improving Najee Harris and Jalen Warren's running. You're giving Warren more opportunity to get outside. And when Kenny Pickett wants to run like he did last year, you've got a blocking quarterback who's going to hold his man downfield and push guys off the ball. He's a mean-spirited, physical guy who's going to help the run game and the quarterback downfield run game incredibly. He's also a great combat catcher. He's a good physical guy who gets up. He can jump. For a guy his size, he can jump incredibly. He's a really good combat catcher. If you watch his middle of the field stuff and his sideline stuff, his footwork is underrated, his hands are underrated, and he's a really good catcher, especially in traffic. And he adds another goal line aspect to this team. Now, again, you can go three tight ends and run the ball with a bunch of blockers. You can go out for passes because all three guys can catch. You put that fullback out there, another guy that can block who played tight end last year who can catch. You've got all these versatile pieces who can line up anywhere. You can put Pat Freiermuth out as a slot wide receiver and leave Washington in for an inside wide receiver or a blocker. You've got so much position versatility now with so many athletes who are playing bigger and stronger and faster than the guys that are covering them, because a lot of inside linebackers either are undersized and fast or they're big size, but they're lumberers and they're a little slow. What linebacker set is going to be able to cover Freiermuth and Washington at the same time when you have Connor Hayward on the field, and that's not even accounting for the running backs catching the ball out of the backfield, Kenny Pickett running, you got George Pickens, you got Deontay Johnson, you just signed Allen Robinson, you got a chance to get a wide receiver in day 4, and you got Calvin Austin, who was one of the fastest wide receivers in the draft last year before he got hurt. So you got all these pieces coming together, and I know it's a lot of unknowns, right? We know Deontay still got to catch the ball. We know Robinson was injured at some point last year. We know Austin was injured last year. We know, some of these guys are rookies. So yeah, I don't want to get hyperbolic and kind of overspeak the value of this. But again, to get the best blocking tight end who can also combat catch and add goal line and sub packages to you, at 93, he was the best player on the board by far, and he gives us such an opportunity to move athletes around and do different things. This offense has so many new wrinkles with this one player being added that you couldn't pass it up here at 93. So all the sting and anger that I was feeling from losing Trenton Simpson to the Ravens feels much, much better with Darnell Washington, the 1A, 1B biggest steal of the draft here for me. And now that pick 132 feels much better, because now in trading back and still getting the best value pick you possibly could have gotten, now you go back to 132, and we're only 12 spots down from our initial 4th round pick. We had 120 in the 4th round. Now we have 132. So essentially, you trade up 3 spots for Broderick Jones, and all you give up is trading back 12 spots in the 4th round. So you recoup the pick you gave up for Broderick Jones. So Omar Khan is absolutely killing this. We've gotten better on both sides of the ball now. If you look at these 4 guys, you look at Broderick Jones, freak athlete, Darnell Washington, freak athlete. We now have much better protection for the pass game and the run game, another big option, and it allows us to move a good option from last year to another spot where he's better served. Now the offense looks much more dynamic and much better. You look at defense, you've got Keanu Benton, a true nose tackle, who can play all along the line and play sub-packages. You got JPJ, a physical outside corner, who adds a starting corner spot to that room. You've got 4 guys who can play next year, who have made both sides of the ball better. And now we've got a pick on round 4, day 3, where there's still some good guys out there. If you look at inside linebacker, there's still Ivan Pace, who's undersized but strong. There's still Henry To'oTo'o from Alabama, who's one of the more underrated linebackers in this draft at inside linebacker. So you got guys like that to look out for in round 4. Outside linebacker, you have Nick Herbig. He's obviously Nate's brother, and they've been looking at him as kind of the third outside linebacker possibility. You've got some good DNs, like the one from Northwestern. You got Ajomo from Texas, Adebawore from Northwestern, Ajomo from Texas. You've got some good potential DNs to add depth on the outside rush in that regard. And you've also got some wide receivers. Parker Washington, who I mocked to us in one of my fourth rounds in the draft. A Penn State big, tall receiver who's quick, breaks tackles, and has good hands. You've got Charlie Jones, who's one of the best deep threats in the entire draft, who came in for a visit from the Steelers. So you've got a bunch of guys. Jacqueline Roy, the D tackle from LSU. They're not going to get another one of those guys now, but he's there. You've got some names and some really solid players sitting there. You've got Kylie Ringo, who I thought could have been a round 2 guy. Again, we already got a corner, so I don't see us double dipping there, but you've got some really good value in round 4. And yeah, Pittsburgh picks later in round 4, but one of these guys will fall there and be a really good value pick to add something extra to the Steelers, because now there's no real pressing need. Like, would I have liked to get an inside linebacker? Sure. But we did just bring over 2 captains from other teams, and we've still got a second-year player who started for us in a few games last year. So we still have 3 bodies there. You know, obviously outside linebacker, you want to get some depth. But we have some great pieces there to start with. So there's no pressing needs, and there's a lot of good value players here. I look for them to either go inside linebacker if they can find the right guy, or to go with someone like Herbig, probably to rush the passer. But Pittsburgh also likes their mid-round wide receivers, and there's a couple really underrated receivers in this 4th round. So those are some things to look at for round 4. That's my review of round 3. So far, even losing Simpson, which I kind of want to take the plus away, I'm in the A to A plus range for the Steelers right now. I look at us as one of the top 3 drafts in the entire draft. I really, really enjoy what certain teams are doing right now, and Pittsburgh is right up there. Definitely an A, if not for the A+. I'm going to give them the A+, because they still got Washington, and they still got a 4th round pick that they're going to add somebody else to the roster. So A to A+ so far for the Steelers through day 2. I will bring you guys my day 3 review either tonight when I get home from filming, or tomorrow morning before I start filming. So I'll bring you guys my round 4 through 7 day 3 draft as well. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of this draft. Who would you rather have taken? Did you like the trade down and passing on Simpson? Do you like Washington for us? Tell me your thoughts on these picks below. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you like these Steelers deep dives, check out my round 1 video from yesterday. Come back for my rounds 4 through 7 video tonight or tomorrow, and I will see you guys soon. I'm loving this draft.